So in the previous lecture, we discussed economic welfare, which is measured by consumer surplus and producer surplus. In this lecture, we'll try to understand how to calculate consumer surplus and producer surplus, and as a result, how to calculate the economic welfare. So let's try to draw first a consumer surplus and producer surplus. Let's say this is your quantity of, say, any commodities, say apples, and this is your price of apples, and how the market price or equilibrium price for the apples are set in the demand and supply. So this is your demand for apples, yes, supply for apples, and where about the intersect, that's your market equilibrium. And suppose the equilibrium price comes out to be, say, $2 per pound, and quantity that people are willing to buy at $2, maybe 10 pounds. So that's the equilibrium price. So first let's try to figure out how much is the consumer surplus and how much is the producer surplus. First, to figure out the consumer surplus, we need to find the maximum willingness to pay. In this case, let's say this is $3, which is the willingness to pay, which the consumer willing to pay, and let's say the minimum price that seller is willing to sell at $1. They will not go below $1. So in this case, so let's try to number this thing. So let's put A, B, C, and D. And how much is the consumer surplus? So in this case, our consumer surplus is A, B, D. So this area is your CS. And how much is your producer surplus? This area is your producer surplus. So producer surplus equal to DCB. So DCB, that's your producer surplus. So what we need to find out is the area these triangles represent. Now what we are going to use is little bit of geometry. So in geometry, area of a triangle, so area of a triangle is equal to half times base times height. So half times base times height. So in this particular, so let's say the triangle ABD. So let's say the triangle ABD, that's consumer surplus, which is also our consumer surplus. So we have half times, what's the base? Base is this DB, base is DB, times what's the height? Height is AD. So we can find it half times DB is 10, because this goes from here 0 to 10. And what is AD? AD is 1. So your consumer surplus is $5. Similarly, we can do producer surplus, which is calculated by half times, what's the base? Base again is DB, times what's the height? Height is DC, which is half times 10 times 1, which gives you $5. So your producer surplus is also $5. So finally, your total surplus is equal to consumer surplus plus producer surplus, which is 5 plus 5 equal to $10. So this is how we calculate all the surpluses. And that's the economic welfare that accrues to the buyers and sellers by participating in this market process of buying apples in the market at the price of $2 per pound.